Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for being here today. Really excited to talk about our topic today. Today, we're talking about sustainable self care. And of course, we specialize in nurses, in healthcare, but this is really for anyone. So if you're not in healthcare, don't leave us. It's a good message for everyone. So I'm really excited today to have a couple of fellow colleagues in nursing with me to talk about this topic. Let me introduce to you, first of all, we've got Nicki Elwood, who's been a nurse for 23 years and now specializes in the care of nurses. In her nurse-centered care, she consults, collaborates, and coaches nurses to take responsibility for their own health and well-being through radically, I love that word, radically valuing self-compassion, self-worth, and ownership of self-care. She's an expert at guiding each nurse in developing their own unique plan of care through lifestyle medicine and holistic healing modalities with a large focus on mental fitness. Love it. Welcome, Nicki.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And last but not least, we have Amy, and I always say Jolie because my French background, I say Jolie, but it's Amy Jolly, has been a nurse for 25 years and now specializes in stress, overwhelm, and burnout in teens and adults. So, you mothers out there who are, or parents, I shouldn't say just mothers, who are nurses or just parents and have children, we know what it's like to juggle healthcare and our children and families at the same time. So, yeah, really, she's an expert at serving people right where they are and helping them move forward regardless of circumstances. For sure, she believes people are not broken and are wholly capable of healing. Welcome, Amy.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you guys here. For the outside world there, Nicki and Amy and I meet once a week to talk about the challenges that nurses and families are going through and how we can best serve them. So we are diligently supporting each other on a weekly basis so that we can be in a great place to be in a great place for you guys. So that's kind of our little story. We've been doing this for what, like a couple of years or something, I think already.
Yeah, I think it's been almost 2 years.
Yeah, probably about 2.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So let's go to the topic of self-care. What is self-care? Let's start with that. Maybe we can kind of give a little bit of background on what we think self-care is. Do you want to start, Amy? I'll invite you first.
Sure. Self-care, it sounds like a simple term. It's just taking care of yourself. But because of the way that we structure our days, sometimes it can be super complicated. But it's just all the little things that we do that essentially fill our cup and help us take care of ourselves so that, like, we meet every week so that we can support our clients and we can fill ourselves up with, knowledge and techniques and support. It's the same thing for anybody, whether that's getting enough sleep or water or, just the going back to basics.
Yeah, it is the basic work for sure. For sure. Thanks, Amy. What about you, Nicki? What do you think?
I'm going to echo that with Amy, the basics of self-care. I live within the nursing world where I work with nurses and nurses who are parents and moms. And so we're constantly caring for everyone else, but we have embodied that so much that we don't take care of ourselves. So self-care's kind of been thrown around. I feel like, especially since COVID came around and nursing, there became more of a interest in a highlight on nurses' self-care. And, I see a lot about massages and, pedicures and taking care of yourself that way, which all of those things are great, but those are kind of the icing on the cake of self-care. The basics of self-care, I believe, are taking care of first your right as a human and needs your basic human needs, meaning the quality of food that you're eating, taking care of your water intake, all of the things that we actually kind of suffer through as nurses that we've kind of just become used to. Those are self-care, but then also self-care of our mind. And and what's happening there. So it becomes a really big topic, not just getting your nails done and having a manicure or pedicure or having a day off, in a bubble bath.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're pointing towards, both of you, is really how do we sustain it, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about going to the spa or to get our nails done, etc. As you said, Nikki, once a month or whatever, and then we crash back into the old patterns. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sustainability demands some regular habit out of it, like something that remains habitual. Yeah, and I'd like to take it just a step further, where you even talked about the mind, our mental fitness, our physical
Mm-hmm.
fitness, our
Mm-hmm.
and then take it even to the step further, which is our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we doing what we're doing? What's the why behind everything? Which is really, it's caring about what we care about, really, on a deeper level. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're pointing to, both of you, to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a very Western model, but
Mm-hmm.
points to the basic needs of water, food, um, sleep, our
Safety, feeling
safety,
safe.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing, which has totally gone out the window in healthcare for our healthcare workers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're going to bring that back.
You want to bring you want to bring that back for sure. Well, because it's a very caring profession, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
we care about others, but who cares about us? Who cares for the caregivers?
Yeah. I used to, our healthcare system in the U.S. really capitalizes on the giver and just takes. And that's where I feel like the nurse has to come to the realization that they have to have enough compassion for themselves to draw some boundaries and feel worthy enough to keep those boundaries in place, where they can't be monetized, and where they're taking care of themselves first. We always say, put on your oxygen mask before you
Hmm.
put on your kids' oxygen masks or help
Yeah.
others. And that's essentially the basis of it.
Mm.
That thought process is like, if I'm not taking care of myself from a very basic level, I can't take care of other people. But we've we've forgotten or never even really had that piece of taking care of ourselves built into Western nursing culture.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah.
Like it hasn't been a foundation.
And I see a lot of overlap in our leadership teams in nursing and in corporate America. I'm in the
Mm-hmm.
United States as well, and into our families with parents, and our kids learn this. So it's definitely a huge overarching problem. Nurses, I believe, are at the forefront of it because of everything that's gone on with the pandemic for the last couple of years. I think it definitely magnified it
Mm.
in our profession, but
Hmm.
it is something that has leached into, I believe, just about every facet of life for most people.
Yeah. You said something that triggered a thought, and then I was listening to you. That's the problem with listening, is that we can't get prepared for the next part, right? When we listen too well. But there was something there that you said. I tell my clients to listen more, and don't prepare to speak, and you kind of have to have that balance between both. That's self-care. But you lean towards something which is interesting, when you talk about leadership, which we're all leaders, whether we're at the bedside or whether we're in a formal leadership role. We're leading, right? If I'm
Mm-hmm.
leading from a place of being tired and grumpy, then that's what I'm going to, it may not be my intention, but it's going to be the impact on my patients, on my colleagues, etc. And where you pointed to was also where we have become so um, advanced in certain ways, where we're all working, and nobody's looking after our children. Nobody's looking after our parents. And the community has really died.
Mm-hmm.
So we have very little support in when we're in need. And great leaders ask for help. And we've lost that. We've lost that as caregivers, as leaders, whatever angle you want to look at it. We don't ask for help. We don't ask for the time we need.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me ask you guys, jump in anytime. How do you personally make sure that you are caring for yourself? And how do you ask your colleagues, families, community for help? And that's a big question.
That is a big question. I'll start.
Okay.
For me, they have to be habits, and they have to be structured in my day. I have alarms set on my phone for certain things. So I take 10 minutes to myself, at a certain time. And if I can't do it at that time, I'll reschedule it later in the day, because let's be honest, life happens and our day doesn't always go according to our calendar.
Yes.
But I calendar it in. I have a big enough water bottle that I can see, and it's always with me so that I can see, how much I'm drinking. And I know, so it's just little cues that help me remember. And then just triggers in my day with alarms and such are just two of the techniques that I use to make sure. And even an alarm at night to remind me to start to wind down to go to bed so that I get enough sleep. Those are just a couple of cues
I like that.
I use in my day.
Mm-hmm. And how do you get the support from your family? Because you have kids, you've got a busy household.
Yes, I have I have teenage kids, and I have a busy husband who works in corporate America, and everybody understands because we've talked about it enough. And that's part of the solution, is talking about it and collaborating and asking for what we need. And we've all recognized in those discussions that they know I do better when I sleep, and they can see it in me, and then they can feel better when they, for example, get enough sleep. So we've all kind of lived through that in creating those habits for ourselves and our families. And we've recognized that when some of those things don't happen, some of us have harder days.
Yes. Yeah. Well, hey, we're only human, right? We're only human. Yeah. What about you, Nicki?
The first thing that came to mind when you were talking about the Amy is, you're all respecting each other, but you're also different personalities. And I think sometimes for people who are more like a people pleasing personality or whatever, it's harder for them to ask, or people who have a problem saying no, or struggle with that or need more practice at it. It's harder to ask for support. So, really finding a mentor in that, honestly, and someone to kind of cheer you on is like amazing, to kind of get you through, like, okay, baby stepping into asking for help. I need this, and this from my partner, or going to your boss, even like building those conversations of where you don't feel supported or you don't feel safe. Whatever that is. So those are really, really challenging conversations sometimes. And so I feel like those are super important. I do agree with the habits, just building on habits and setting a safety net for yourself with those habits, because I feel like you can build a habit of, say it's, exercise or eating well, but then life happens and then you're like kind of set off course or whatever. And so those safety nets of support around you, like you were saying, Lillian, people holding you accountable or just being there like, hey, how you doing? And just holding you up are vital to getting back on track and kind of coming back to center and remembering, okay, if I'm not actually caring well for myself, getting enough sleep, getting enough, movement and exercise, getting enough sun, all the basic things, taking care of what I'm putting inside my mind. You are what you eat, but you are what you put in your mind too, right? Just all of those
You are what you
things.
think.
Then, yeah. And so,
Like,
yeah, like having a community around you that's kind of refocusing you when you feel off, or you get off, or you like are on this, struggle plane.
yeah, yeah,
So community is key. Community is key. Like community is what? Your family, but then, that's your inner circle ring, maybe your family and close friends, but then also your second outer part of that becomes your work family, or however you want to put that. People that you're around a lot and that trust and support you. And I don't
yeah,
know.
and training them even to say, notice when we're off track to say, are you okay? What do you need?
Yeah.
I've got and I hate to say I've got my husband trained. That sounds really weird, but but I guess he's trained himself. Let's put it that way. Where he'll actually, he even said it to me yesterday. He said, "Okay, you need to sit down right now, go and do this or whatever. Go and relax, go and read whatever, and I'll do this." So he kind of directs me to where he knows I'm going to get energized, right? So it's important to have that understanding and that dance, and I can do the same for him, right?
Mhm.
And to put boundaries. I think you've talked about boundaries just earlier, Nicki, when setting the boundaries and saying, this is what I can do, and that's all I can do today, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
I have this wonderful thing. I think I'm sometimes my little hyperachiever mind comes out, and I'll say to my husband, okay, today it's Saturday, we've got this and this and this and this to do. And my husband looks at me and goes, pick one. So he's got me trained in that way of slowing down. Like, let's pick one, let's do this, and then we can talk about if there's more time for other things, right? But
Yeah.
it's creating those boundaries. It's creating that that place where we can stop and assess. I think we don't stop and assess enough.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and that inner strength, the inner strength, just like you take your body to the gym, and you can have support around you with a trainer or, your friends that you meet at the gym, you have to work on your mental strength. And we kind of alluded to that a little bit, but having that, either the strength to set boundaries for yourself or someone to support you in creating that practice and those habits. I'm a recovering people pleaser and controller. So I don't come by these skills naturally. It's definitely something that has evolved over time and with support. So, it's always, you are always able to move forward, and you are always able to learn new skills to support you wherever you are, so that you can improve from wherever you're at, and regardless of what life throws at you. Because like I said earlier, our life doesn't go by our calendar all the time. So what happens when things shift and change, and having that, those abilities, with your body as well, you have to take care of your body, but also your mind and your spirit to be able to support you in those shifts and changes that inevitably come.
Yeah. 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 And what we're pointing to for the audience out there who's listening, all three of us are trained in positive intelligence, which is it's a mental fitness. Basically, your mind talks about, these sabotaging thoughts, and we have these little saboteurs, as we call them. And one of them is the pleaser, which is definitely probably a big one for many of us who are caregivers, to please, which is always about giving, 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 giving. But we have to look at the root of things too. Why do we want to please others? We get satisfaction in that. As part of what we, why we went into nursing in the first place. For us, it's like that place of, I really get a lot of pleasure out of helping you. So when you tell me that I've got to tone that down and slow it down, it's like, but you're taking away my joy. Well, no, there's balance of joy and creating some pleasure for yourself in other ways. It's not all one way, right? So yeah, so we do we will put our information out in the comments for those who are interested in reaching out to us. We will put our whatever our contact information, and you can reach out to any of us that resonate with you, or all of us that resonate with you, whatever, and we can we can certainly have a chat and see how we can help you. But let's kind of move on. I want to go back to you, Nicki, because we kind of went away from when I asked you about, where do you look after yourself and how do you put the boundaries with your family and community, and where do you ask for help, kind of thing. So
I would have to say, where do I put the boundaries? I communicate with my family. First of all, I have kids as well. High school and one early college student that still is at home. And letting them, have the freedom of picking kind of what they help with, but also everybody kind of knows we've always described our family as like our own little town, our own little society. And if everybody doesn't contribute, then things kind of fall apart a little bit, or somebody has to pick up the pieces. And so we have a little governmental system in our family. I suppose my husband and I are the co-presidents. I don't know, but
the decision makers.
Yeah, expecting, kind of like, hey, you can contribute as well. So I mean, it comes down to like literally really seems like simple stuff, but like, helping in the kitchen, laundry, cleaning up after yourself, things like that. But then also I would say, at work, just for instance, asking your boss, for help, or for me, like setting like a routine in the morning. And this is what I do, working for myself, and this is how my day goes. So setting those like expectations for myself as far as this is how my days goes. Now, does that happen all the time? Absolutely. Actually, almost none of the time it goes exactly like that. But at least I've made that plan for myself and respected myself not enough to kind of do that, instead of just throwing myself into my day and like letting my day happen to me.
Yeah, I like that. I like not letting the day happen to you. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like your brain. It's like you're not allowing your saboteurs to command your brain. You are commanding your own brain. So you're in control.
And I would say, like, the practices with the mental fitness, like just really taking some time spiritually for myself, in whether it falls in the morning or the evening, really taking some inward time for myself as well, just kind of bringing myself back to center. I'm trying to be better about grounding outside, because I actually am a person who really hates being outside.
Oh, really? Didn't know that.
But I'm trying. Yeah. I'm not a lover of outside. I like when it's like grandiose, on a vacation, but like going out in my yard or something, I'm like, nope, like I'll stay inside things. But like respecting myself as a nurse, I understand the science of vitamin D, and the importance of getting out in the sun and just kind of supporting myself in that way. I don't know, did that answer your question? I mean, there's so many things. You just kind of build and build and build upon each habit that you make and each boundary that you set or fence that you put up, whatever terminology you like to use for that. And it kind of just evolves as you evolve.
Yeah. I think so. I want to take it back a little bit. So we've talked about ourselves a bit. When we go to work with our clients out there, and maybe I'll just start with, when they are in such a place of burnout and they ask me, should I change jobs? What should I do? How do I do this? How do I do that? And just go, whoa, first of all, stop. That's just the word stop has to come up. Somebody's got to, tell them stop for a moment here. And then it goes back to, the basic needs. Sometimes it's about taking total time off, which some people have had to do, medical leave, where all they focus on is, are they drinking their water? Are they sleeping? How did they get their sleep back in routine? I was just listening to a leadership thing the other day where the guy was saying it doesn't matter if it's the weekend, your routine needs to stay the same, right? Whether it's the weekend or the week. So I found that very interesting. And going back to nutrition is so big. We are so lacking education in, whether it's our medical doctors, nurses, the people who are helping people get well or at least be preventative. We don't know enough about nutrition. And I think the three of us have taken the time to learn about nutrition, about what our bodies need.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I feel like it's almost as imperative to learn about nutrition as it is for a nurse, as it is to learn about drugs and side effects. And I feel like that's equal.
Oh, it is.
Or more. I mean, I don't want to say more because we give a lot of drugs, but
yeah. But you're right. But it's like going back to the very, very basic, and breath work. Before I did all this years back, I realized how much I held my breath. We sit there and we're just like listening, and we're like, our breathing is very shallow, and we're not taking deep breaths. We're not, and now top it off with masks and everything else, right? We're not taking in oxygen that we need.
Yeah.
It impacts our organs. It impacts our brain. Anyway, which is an organ, but anyway, it impacts us. So going back to the very, very, very basics. If you're in a place of burnout, we have to go back to the very basics. It's not about getting your nails done. It's not about, even
which is fun,
routine or new habits. It's not about that. It's basic stuff. And then, so we know what we do with the burnt out situation. Then we go to this place where somebody's ready to take on a little bit more. They're still at work, okay, or work or home work. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter where we are. Being a mother or a father full time is a lot of work as well. So where do you start? Where do you start with your clients once they've got that basic foundation?
Honestly, I let them pick one. Let them choose, list out a couple of things that they want to do, but see the one that resonates the most with them, where they want to go, and kind of lead them, that way, whether it be looking at changing the culture in their workplace, because it's about taking care of ourselves, but it's also about taking care of our culture and our workplace and the culture of our family. Pick one thing that resonates with them, because for me as a coach to pick for them, it might not be something that truly resonates with them, even though it's on their list of to-dos or a list of goals. But if they pick the one that they're the most passionate about, then I find that they can get a little bit of traction that way and feel themselves moving forward and celebrate those victories, so that then they can maybe stack on another habit or stack on another little goal. But it's about starting small wherever we are with ourselves and our communities, because they're not exclusive of each other. We have to focus on ourselves and take care of ourselves, but it's not at the exclusion of our communities or our teams at all. Because there's definitely a back and forth with that. By being healthier and stronger and better ourselves and moving towards our goals, we help our communities and our teams do the same. And then in doing that, we can help, our team be the same, which stronger, which can help strengthen us. And we can also move forward as a collective as well as an individual.
I'm hearing some themes that come up with clients as you're speaking, because themes come up, right? Absolutely. They tend to go somewhere, and there's a couple of things there, and that is the very first one that I think really resonated as you were speaking was finding your voice. Finding your voice is about asking for what you need, or telling somebody what your boundaries are. And learning to do that from a loving place, loving yourself and loving someone else versus having that armor on, which is quite typical to have that
Yeah.
armor on and say, I'm fine. I've got all my, S together, and I'm, I don't need your point of view, and just, back off because I'm trying to get things done. Like, that's very aggressive. There's a lot of hurt in there. So finding your voice and learning how to use it, I think, is a theme that has come up very much with my clients. So yeah, there was something else, but that's fine. Well, as I said, listening is sometimes your mind goes somewhere else, so it's all right. It's all right. What comes up for you, Nicki? As you're helping? Yeah,
What's that?
as you're focusing on helping your clients, uh, where they start after their basics.
Basics, I feel like take a little time. They really do. So this is not a fast process, and I don't feel like people should feel like I'm a failure or I'm like behind for some of the basics taking a while. But like Amy said, people guide you, like they guide the process. They innately know what it is that they need when they're asked, powerful questions of like, hey, what is our next step? So yeah, I feel like the client always guides that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it points to the place of, why is it important for a client like this, or people who are in this place who need the support? Why is it important to work with someone?
Go ahead, Amy, if you.
Because when we're in the state of like feeling overwhelmed or burned out, we don't have a complete perspective. I mean, as nurses, we know how our brain works and our biology works. And when that happens, it becomes more of a narrow focus and shift for our mind about focusing on what the problem is and what to do about it. And for people who aren't in healthcare, it's a biology thing. We go into our survival brain. So having someone on the outside with a different perspective that can help us see all the things, not just the things in that narrow visual field of what the problem is, all the things that could be a problem, but also all the things that could potentially help, is very valuable, because we don't always have the complete picture when we're in that place of being overwhelmed.
Yeah, I agree. And you really build that support for yourself and respect yourself when you have built in the accountability with someone else, and also the support and perspective of someone else. Like you don't expect yourself to be an expert golfer if you've never golfed before, or you're coming back from an injury or something, to do that alone. So if you take like the athlete's perspective of always having a coach, they never don't have a coach, or a support system around them, people cheering them on. Then, if we took that perspective with our own health and wellness, man, that's powerful. So powerful.
Yeah, and the three of us have been through it.
Yeah.
So although everybody's experience is different, there's something about understanding it at a level that's very different.
Yeah.
And we've all three been in it in our very own way, for sure. You used a term in your bio, Nicki, that stood out, and I kind of pointed to it when I was introducing you, the word radically. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
In
Radical
relation to
self-compassion.
sustainable self-care, right? Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, I feel like by saying radical, I feel like it gives it emphasis of like, we aren't doing this. So it seems radical to do these things, to actually build sustainable support and self-care for yourself. Like, so it seems like a radical revolution, to me, because it's not our first nature as givers and healers.
Yeah, because when we're in that place of
Or
burnout
mothers.
yeah, yeah. When we're in that place of burnout and that place of not knowing how to get out of this,
Uh-huh.
it's we have to make that radical move.
Yeah, and it feels radical, even though it might seem silly from the outside, but inwardly it feels like, okay, I'm choosing myself. This is different.
You know what I love about that is I remember when I took that radical move. I remember that because that kind of brought up a memory. I remember my one of my family members came up to me and said, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually in a good place." And I remember him saying, "I don't know, there's something different about you. You used to be like this and used to be like that, and you're not the same." And I go, "Yeah, because when I was like this and like that, I was on a I was living on a stress ball. Like I was just like I was in a place where I was functioning from an unhealthy radical place, right?" If
Yeah,
we're going to talk radical.
survival mode. That's how we function, which is
Yeah.
like,
And
so
I don't
to radically get out of that is like, whoa.
Yeah, and so the place that I got to was so peaceful, and I found at times when I wasn't
Mhm.
jumping up and responding, where my usual energy would go, I was more peaceful, and it was like people really had to get used to me differently.
Mhm.
I had to get used to me differently. Never mind. I was like, "Am I okay? Why am I so calm?"
I really like that you brought up that you were more peaceful, because I feel like that is what we crave.
Mm.
We crave those innate feelings of joy and peace. And it's when you're constantly in a survival, fight or flight, what is it? Pause or fawn, or what are the other ones?
Oh,
They've
I don't
added
know.
new ones since I went to school. But like, you know what I mean? When you just dated myself. when, when you're in that, when you're always in that, you are craving that sense of peace and like hope and joy, those like really positive feelings that create all of that biochemistry in your body. And when you've built that support and that sustainable self-care, and really have spent time working with yourself, it comes naturally. You really start to feel it actually pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I'm in that turmoil of stress, when I want that peace, what do I want to do? I just want to go take a vacation and sit on the beach for a
Yeah, I
week,
don't
right?
dream
That's what
about
you're looking for.
vacations.
What's that?
I don't dream about vacations
Uh,
because I don't feel like, I mean, vacations are fun. Like I
yes,
dream about the fun of going somewhere different maybe, but it's not something that I'm escaping to.
right. Yes,
Mhm.
love that. Yeah. Wow.
Which is which is obtainable. I'm telling you guys, it's obtainable.
Mhm.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Been there, done that. We're here. And so let me point, maybe Amy, you might jump in here, is um what we understand that there's certain things that need to change in our life. There's boundaries, there's our voice, there's the self-care pieces about the basic needs, new habits. What do you think makes it what's the ingredient that's really important in order to make it sustainable? And sustainable meaning, well, maybe you can go to what that means to be sustainable and what's the magic or the key ingredient that makes it sustainable.
Where my brain goes instantly is I'm a recovering perfectionist, and a pleaser. So for me, that's my natural bent to go towards things have to be perfect, especially in healthcare. Things have to go right and be perfect or people die.
Mhm.
So for me to, first of all, recognize that this isn't that, um, as as extreme as that, but down the road it could be.
Mhm.
But to recognize, and I love Nicki's word radical, because it does feel radical to kind of just pause and take a step back and realize that if I don't take care of myself and if I don't do these things, I'm not going to be able to sustain where I'm at, because what I'm doing is not sustainable long term. things start to, deteriorate in our bodies and in our minds, and just that's not sustainable. So for me to choose sustainable means that it's something that I can do long term, but it's not perfect. Sustainable does not mean perfect. Sustainable means more often than not, I can do these things. So for me, it was teasing apart sustainable from perfection, for sure. Because like I said, my natural bent is to strive for perfectionism. But what makes us sustainable is just recognizing the little things that aren't sparkly, that aren't, in the news, right? Because they're not super jazzy. I don't know what another word would be, but it's the little things. It's the little things that make me successful. It's the little things in my day that I do every day that help me move forward in that, by creating the small habits. Just pick one. Pick water, pick sleep, pick focusing on your nutrition. Just pick one and move forward with that until you start to feel good there and move forward. That's what makes it sustainable. It's not about how you see in movies, everything shifts in a snap and it's perfect moving forward. That's not real. That's not real for any of us. And that's not real as a culture in an organization or in our families. So it's just those small, subtle shifts that we keep moving with and giving ourselves grace when life happens and things don't go as we planned in our calendar. And knowing that that's okay and we can still continue to strive for. I love the 80-20 rule personally. As long as 80% of the time, I get it right, then I'm still moving forward. And 20% of the time life happens or just my day happens to me, then it doesn't happen. Kind of giving myself that space to get away from my perfectionist brain. For me is what helped make it sustainable.
Yeah. And that kind of points to the lessons I've learned through my life is when I wanted it to be perfect. I remember, looking at this person who reads an hour a day and this person who, takes a cold shower and this person who, whatever, exercises 3 times a week and this person who does this. And then I wanted to do it all, but I didn't realize that there were like 10 people out there doing these 10 things and I was wanting to do it all. So what I turn to and what I tell my clients is that celebrating the wins.
Absolutely.
I read for 30 minutes today. That's a win.
10 minutes. If you're reading 10 minutes is a win.
Yeah.
Or freaking one page.
Of water, I'm thinking about my water bottle here and I'm going, okay, so I had these are wins. And the more wins we can focus on, which is building the neural pathways to positivity, to success, our own personal successes, then that's going to keep the sustainability wheel going. I think that's really important. Go ahead, Nicki, because
you just sparked a conversation I had with a client, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe more. And I had read this, maybe it was on a Facebook story and later realized it was from, now I'm going to lose, Atomic Habits, maybe is what it's from.
Yes, Atomic Habits, yeah.
Like something, the saying something goes like this. I'm not perfect. Even if you're doing something 1% more than you were.
Yes.
Like over time, you're building 1%. Like that's actually big. And you're not what you were. So to me, just like, it might be like minute changes, but like those minute changes that you're like pivoting on when you're, building all of those things are big. They're huge.
Right. You're moving that needle towards, the positive. I'm moving out of my picture here because I'm backwards. Yeah, I'll go this way. So you're moving the needle towards the positive, where you want to be heading. So you're on the right path. You just need to be on the path.
Yeah.
You don't need to arrive.
And the trick and the key is keep it small. And like you said, Lillian, celebrate the wins so you can find joy in the journey. Because it's the journey that when we find the joy there and is what's going to keep us moving forward. It's those little dopamine hits. It's the new neural pathways. It's celebrating in our brain. So our brain finds seeks that more. We can actually train our brain and rewire our brain to seek those small wins more by doing exactly what you said, and naturally then create sustainability from there.
Yes.
That's one thing I feel like I've had to really, really learn and focus on. I feel like I started to get a glimpse of it when my kids were born, and like they kind of force you to slow down a little bit. But I'm a task-driven person by nature, and then nursing is like driven it into me, like task-driven, like you just go to the next thing and you compartmentalize so much that you don't. I never stopped to celebrate things. Like it was just always to the next thing. And I didn't even, I mean, to me, stopping to celebrate was like high five, like whatever. And then there you go. And I didn't see anything wrong with that. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's for, the moment. But like what I'm saying is I've really learned to slow down and like celebrate my wins. Like just yesterday I was cleaning out a drawer and I found a graduation card I made for myself.
I love it.
When I got done with my board certification for nurse coaching, like I wrote it to myself because I was being purposeful to stop, like literally making myself stop and celebrate that win.
Yeah.
By writing myself a silly card. But it really does work. It really does shift your mental focus, and it gets easier and easier to stay in that place, on that plane.
And that's the sustainability piece. It's the staying where you are and moving little bits forward versus falling off. And I think what happens when you're, for me, my experience has been when you're working with a coach, when you're being part of a community, and I have basically 3 communities that I'm solidly a part of. Our community, I have a leadership community that I did training in Spain with people from all over the world. And I have a community of coach friends that we meet regularly. And that piece keeps me sustainable, keeps me accountable to where I've arrived and what's next. I love the term of turning the volume up a little bit, right? It's like that needle, right? It's just turning the volume up. What could you do? And this is something we do on a weekly basis. We ask ourselves at the end, okay, so what do we want for this week? And I love, that some of us are like, yeah, I'm off to, go to the races. And somebody else will say, and Nicki, both of you actually are a great example of this, have said, this week, I'm not taking on anything. This is where I'm at, and I've got this, and this is where I need to be right now. And I love that. I love the pause. I love the, and then it's like, back on the, the treadmill. There's such a beautiful dance to that. And that's where we keep each other accountable. Hence why I created Join the Movement, Nurses Reclaim Life, the movement where people become part of a community. Nurses come in, share their wins, any challenges they have. Other people have been through it. What's some light bulbs we might get to just shift that needle a little bit? So this is such a moment of gratitude right now.
Yeah, I think that's where I was going with Nurse Nation too, the Facebook group I started. It was just that importance and that like focus that we are in this together, and let's find our people and let's build each other up. Let's figure out what support we need, and maybe someone else has done something, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Or maybe my colleague has been through what I'm feeling in my head. Some pretty serious things when we work as nurses get in our head, and so like just having that outlet, that you can come to, and it can be like anonymous or not,
Yeah. Talk about a little bit about that, both of you, where our clients sometimes come in and go, there's shame, right?
Mm.
Guilty is, as Brene Brown put it, guilty is, I've done something wrong. Shame is like, I'm a failure. I'm a bad person. I should be shooting on ourselves, right?
Shooting all over.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Point to that a little bit, maybe.
In how to solve it, I'm not sure, or
Yeah,
we're just where we
tell
are.
me more.
Yeah, well, when we're coming in this, our clients come in sometimes, or before they even sign up with us. It's even when we offer like a complimentary call to a client, just say, let's have a chat for an hour, see if this is, a match, or where you need to be, or how I can help you. There's that place of like, just me calling up and sharing, being vulnerable. I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of coming to this place and telling you. And yet we've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yeah.
what's your experience with people who come on board at the beginning? Where are they in their mind, in your experience?
I would say exactly what you talked about, Lillian. There is shame in reaching out and asking for help. There's shame in, why can't I do this myself, especially in healthcare and nurses, or leaders and parents. As a parent, as a nurse, I should know these things. I am the parent of this child, or I am the nurse. I am in healthcare. I should know these things.
Mm-hmm.
Shitting all over ourselves, right? And there's shame in that. Even if I have the information, I can look up something in a reputable source, not even just relying on Google. Like, I can find reputable information to help me get out of this. Why can't I do this myself? There is a ton of shame in that, and that's very real. But recognizing that we weren't designed to go through life alone. We weren't designed to go through life without being connected to other people and without being in a community, whether that community is our family, our work, the support systems that we put in place around us professionally, personally. We were designed to help each other through struggles in life, and to also celebrate things in life with, right? Which is why we support people when they have funerals in their family, and we support people when they have babies in their families.
Yes.
We support wins as a community. We support wins as, a corporation. So we do those things kind of on a superficial level, but it's the same. And so just recognizing that community can be there to serve us. So just pause, and again, like Nicki said, just pause and recognize that it's okay to see if someone can help you, and that person might not be a fit, and that doesn't mean you're broken. But the beauty of working with a coach, and especially a coach who's a nurse, we're bound by HIPAA, so it doesn't go anywhere. It stays right in that container when you do have that conversation, whether you choose to move forward or not. So everything is still in a safe environment. And you can learn to also kind of lay down that shame in recognizing it. And if I'm not going to go off on a tangent right now, but just recognizing, like in my life, in the places I've struggled, once I've moved past that, it makes me stronger to help someone else through that struggle.
True. Yeah.
So
very true.
That's why someone is struggling, so that you can get past that, so that then you can help, lead someone else through that same struggle.
Yeah. And what you point to is a saying I have, that, pain is inevitable. Struggling is a choice, because there's so much help out there. Yeah. Nicki, you were going to say something?
Oh, I think around shame, our culture is kind of like, it's getting better, but like there's been this building of perfection. Like everything has to look perfect. I have to be perfect. I have to have the perfect this and that, whatever, keep up with the Joneses. And then there's another level of perfectionism that comes in the culture of nursing, where I don't get to make mistakes. Like that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a human.
Yes. Oh,
even though I'm a
word.
human.
And when you do say you've made a mistake, there's consequences around that sometimes, so it's a scary place to go.
Yeah. And so it is filled with a lot of shame when you come to another human and say, here's all my
Yeah.
XYZ, you know, like,
Very true.
hey, I'm in a place of like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But here's all my junk, you know,
Yeah.
and that feels shameful, because partly because that's how our culture is like
Yeah.
been built. Like,
We've lost
we're
control.
strong, you know, we're Americans, we build everything, we do everything, we're
Yeah.
like, you know, machines. Like,
Yeah.
actually, nope.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like,
We've lost control, and that's a scary place, right? You know, you both pointed to you talked about culture, and you know, you're both from the United States. I'm from Canada, um, which is similar and a little different. Um, but then I work with people around the world, and culture. I mean, in Canada, we see well, depending on provinces. Where I lived in Ontario, it was like very multicultural, and cultures tend to hang together. And you know, especially in the nursing, well, in everything. I shouldn't say just nursing. Um, and trying to understand each culture is also a piece of, you know, dealing with our own care. Like we have to understand, like I as whatever, a white woman in this case, or I as a black woman or whatever, it's this place of trying to be understood in our cultures. And I look at the work that I do in South Africa, and boy, there's a lot of, you know, different cultures, and people maybe, you know, there'll be white people, but there'll be black people, and then there's different shades of black, and then there's, you know, people who speak different dialects in their languages. And it's so interesting to see how we fit into our own little worlds. And so where am I going with this, with self-care and sustainability? It's like that's part of the
yeah.
complexity
Uh-huh.
of finding ourselves, right? When we look at ourself, we get caught up in everything that's not us, and trying to mesh with that and trying to work with that, and the expectations of our profession, the expectations of our of other cultures, of other
Mhm.
people. And it can be another white woman, but for me,
Our
you know,
family.
whole family. Yeah, that's another show. That's totally another show. But yeah, absolutely. And you know, and we're also talking about family. We're in that place where, you know, it used to be that you only had your kids to look after because parents, you know, died younger. Now we've got the complexity of both sides.
Mhm.
You know, just when I thought I was an empty nester, all of a sudden my kids are coming back to move in. I mean, my son's moving back in. It's like, here we go again. And so where's myself? Where's my boundaries? Where's my, you know, my habits I've created with my husband in the last, you know, few years, and now my son's coming back in. Where do I have to reset my boundaries, etc., right?
Mhm.
So complex. But sustainability, I think, let's just kind of wrap this up around sustainability. Your thoughts about, if you had to say something to somebody, and in the meantime, please put your information in the comment boxes as well. If you had to put some comment around sustainability and what you might be inviting somebody to have a call with you or whatever, please go ahead and do that. Do you want to start, Nicki?
My my conclusion to sustainability, I feel like sustainability, self-care, and I call it support as well, like making that sustainable starts with first looking at yourself and really having compassion, the same compassion that you would have for your patient, for yourself.
Mm,
We
yeah.
don't look at, we take care of all kinds of patients, and we give the same kind of care, and turning that mirror right back around at ourselves and giving ourselves the care we would give our clients, and really digging into our own self-worth, that we are worth that.
Yeah, we're worth it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
the first, I think that's literally the first step.
Yeah.
Like recognizing I'm in fight or flight constantly. I'm in survival mode, and step back. How am I taking care of myself like I would take care of others?
Yeah. Yeah.
How am
And
I talking to
yeah.
myself?
And so, Nicki,
All the things.
yeah, I think that I'll be bold enough to say, because I think we've talked about this enough together. If somebody wants to have a talk with you and just, have that moment where there's a mirror reflecting back to them and telling them what they're noticing, you get to tell them what you notice about their words, their language, their, what they're presenting, so that they can have a more clear, focused laser vision of themselves. They can certainly reach out to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And everybody out there who's watching, you're going to feel, a connection with somebody here on this call. So lean in and reach out. So Nicki, would you put your stuff in the comment, please, about where they can reach you?
Yes.
And Amy, what's your thought, about sustainable self-care as a, completion thought, and what you might be inviting people to do with you?
Well, sustainable self-care, the beauty of life is it's always changing. The difficulty of life is it's always changing. So when you have a coach or someone in your corner that can kind of help you see through the struggles and see that, to find joy in the journey, that's what makes it sustainable, is learning to not run down a to-do list, just like we do in nursing, just like we do, when we're going to the grocery store. It's about learning to adapt and, implement new strategies and help someone with a new vision see how to continue to move forward. That's what makes it sustainable. Sustainable is not perfection. Sustainable is not getting my list done from 1 to 25 in the day. Sustainable is just, like you said, small shifts and continue to move forward. I've had the opportunity to work with, clients in South Africa and in Morocco, and, people are people globally. We come from different cultures. We come from different backgrounds. We have different colors of skin, but we're still people, and we all have the same basic needs. And to have someone come alongside you and ask you what do you want? For me, when someone asked me that for the first time, was hard. I didn't know. I never allowed myself the opportunity to even think about that. So having someone come alongside you and doing that, and just recognizing that sustainability is not perfection. Those are my two big
walkways.
Walkways. Yeah, I was going to say, I lost the word there for a second. But so in knowing that you can continue to move forward from wherever you are, and it's just, again, joy in the journey. That's what makes it sustainable, and recognizing that you're not alone, and it doesn't matter where you are globally. The beauty of a global world now is that we can all learn from each other and all respect each other's cultures and preferences and our needs.
Yeah. Well said. And please put your information, Amy, into the comments as well, so people can reach out to you. At the end of the day, it's really about, do you want to remain caught in the struggle? Are you committing to the struggle? Because if you're not reaching out for help or asking for something, you are committed to your struggle. You want to change, commit to some solution, or at least the path to the solution, which is the wins, right? Which is celebrating the little things that change, and to have a cheerleader holding you up and going, look at, because sometimes we're so hard on ourselves, and to have one of us say to you, look where you were 6 months ago. Look where you are today.
Yeah.
Let's just stop, because here's that thing again, stop, reflect, look at where you came from. What has changed? Where are you? And I use this thing of, where are you on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the perfect place you want to be. By the time you reach 10, you have a new 10, we're always changing, right? It is. I mean, we're never, these numbers are so funny, because numbers have absolutely no meaning other than the meaning they have in that moment for you. And then they change. So, so it's about really doing that, stopping and making the small wins. The topic is sustainable self-care. Sustainable means that there's got to be rhythm, right? There's got to be a rhythm to what you're doing, so that there's a constant, what's next, what's here, and gentle, because if it's like a race, it's exhausting. And that's the piece that we all need to change, is back up a little bit and slow it down.
Yeah.
The topic we had was sustainable self-care, implementing it for ourselves, which we talked about big time, and for our teams. And the teams, whether that team is your family or the team is the team that you're working with in a hospital or wherever that team is, because we all have our teams somewhere. I think it's about role modeling. I think it just goes back to the place of just be you for you, and the rest of everything else will fall into place. Just trust that. Mm-hmm. And that's really my closing thought. So, out there, you're watching this, you're not alone. We are helping people. We still have our days when we've got our struggles and we choose to commit to something else. And we lean on each other here. We lean on our own communities. Join the movement. Nurses Reclaim Life. Reach out to us and we're offering this. Let us help you. We're here. Like, this is gold right now.
Yeah.
Take just a little bit of gold and try it out. All right. Thank you guys for being here. I am so blessed to have you in my life. And take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.